Hello Mark, my name is Tinson. My student number is 56. I'm a freshman in NCUE. Markham, Nolan. How to separate fact and fiction online. I've been a journalist now since I was about 17, and it's an interesting industry to be in at the moment. Because as you all know, there's a huge amount of upheaval going on in media. And most of you probably know this from the business angle, which is that the business model is pretty skewed. And as my grandfather would say, the profits have all been gobbled up by Google. So it's a really interesting time to be a journalist. But the upheaval that I'm interested in is not on the output side, it's on the input. It's concerned with how we get information and how we gather the news. And that change because we have a huge shift in the balance of power from the news organization to the audience. And the audience for such a long time was in a position where they didn't have any way of affecting news or making any change. They couldn't really concern. And let's change irrevocably. My first connection with the news media was in 1984. The BBC has a one-day strike. I wasn't happy. I was angry. I couldn't see my cartoons, so I wrote a letter, and it's a very effective way of ending your hate mail. Like Markham Act 4 still works. I'm not sure if I have any impact on the one-day strike, but what I do know is that it took them 3 weeks to me, and that was the wrong journey. It took that long for anyone to have any impact and get some feedback. And that changed now because as a journalist, we interact in real time, and we're not in a position where the audience is reacting to news. We are reacting to the audience, and we actually relying on them. They are helping us find the news. They are helping us figure out what is the best angle to take and what is the stuff that they want to hear. So it's a real-time thing. It's much quicker. It's happening on a constant basis. And the journalist is always playing catch up. To give an example how we rely on the audience. On the 5th of September in Costa Rica, an earthquake hit. It was a 7.6 magnitude. It was very big. And 60 seconds is the amount of time it took for it to travel 215 kilometers to Managua. So the ground shock in Managua 16 seconds after it hit the epicenter. 30 seconds later, the first message went onto Twitter, and this was someone saying "trembler," which mean earthquake. So 16 seconds was how long it for the physical earthquake to travel. 13 seconds later, news of that earthquake had traveled all around the world instantly. Everyone in the world hypothetically had the potential to know that an earthquake was happening in Managua. And that happened because this one person had a documentary instinct, which was to post a stat update, which is what we all do now. So if something happens, we put our stats update, or we post a photo, we post a video, and it all goes up into the cloud in a constant stream. And what that means is just constant, huge value of data going up. It's actually staggering. When you look at the number, every minute there are 72 more hours of video on YouTube. So let every second, moment, and hour of video get uploaded. And in photos, Instagram, 58 photos are uploaded to Instagram a second. More than 3,500 photos go up onto Facebook. So by the time I'm finished talking here, there will be 864 more hours of video on YouTube than there were when I started, and 2.5 million more photos on Facebook and Instagram than when I started. So it's an interesting position to be in as a journalist, because we should have access to everything, and even that happen anywhere in the world. I should be able to know about it pretty much instantaneously, as it happens for free. And that goes for every single person in this room. The only problem is when you have less much information, you have to find the good stuff, and that can be incredibly difficult when we are dealing with those values. And nowhere was the Bruce home more than during Hurricane Sandy. So what you had in Hurricane Sandy was a superstorm, the likes of which we didn't think for a long time, hitting the iPhone capital of the universe, laughter. And you got values of media like we were never seen before. And that means that journalists have to deal with facts. So we have to deal with all photos that were being reposted. We have to deal with composite image that we are merging photos from previous storm. We have to deal with images from films like The Day After Tomorrow, Laughter. And we have to deal with images that was so realistic it was nearly difficult to tell if they were really at all, Laughter. But joking aside, there were images like this one from Instagram, which was subjected to a grilling by journalists. They wasn't really sure there was phrase in Instagram. The writing was questioned. Everything was questioned about it, and it turned out to be true. It was from Avenue C in downtown Manhattan, which was flooded. And the reason that they could tell that it was real was because they could get to the source. And in this case, these guys were New York food bloggers. They were well respected, they were known, so this one wasn't a debunk. It was actually something that they could prove, and that was the job of the journalist. It was fronting all this stuff, and you were, instead of going and finding the information and bringing back to the reader, you are holding back the stuff that was potentially damaging. And the final source becomes more and more important. Finding the good source, and Twitter is where most journalists now go, and it's like the de facto real-time news wire. And you know how to use it because there is so much on Twitter. And a good example of how useful it can be, but also how difficult it was in the ejection revolution in 2011. As a non-Arabic speaker, as someone who was looking from the outside from Dublin, Twitter list and the list of the good sources people would establish were credible was really important. And how do you build a list like that from scratch? Well, it can be quite difficult, but you have to know what to look for. The visualization was done by an Italian academic. He's called Nolan, and he basically took the Twitter conversation in Times Square. On the day that Hosni Mubarak will eventually resign, and the dots you can see are retreat. So when someone retreats a message, a connection is made between two dots, and the more time that message is retweeted by other people, the more you get to see this connection being made. And it's an amazing way of visualizing the conversation, but what you get is hint at who is more interesting and who is worth investigating. And as the conversation grew and grew, it became more and more lively. And eventually you were left with this huge, big, rhythmic point of this conversation. You can find the note. So, and then you went and you go, right? I've investigate these people. These are the ones that are obviously making sense. Let's see who they are. Now, in a deluge of information, this is where the real-time web gets really interesting for journalists like myself, because we have more tools than ever to do this kind of investigation. And when you start digging into the sources, you can go farther and farther than you ever could before. Sometimes you come across a piece of content that is so compelling. You want to use it. You are dying to use it, but you are not 100% sure if you can, because you don't know if the source is credible. You don't know if it's a script. You don't know if it is re-upload. And you have to do less investigate work. And this video, which I'm going to let run through, was one we discovered a couple of weeks ago. Video getting real windy in just a second. Rain and wind sounds. Explosion. Oh shit. Markham Nolan. Okay, so now if you are news of a producer, this is something you have loved to run with, because obviously this is gold. You know, this is a fantastic reaction from someone very generally video lets their shoot in their back garden. But how do you find if this person, if it's true, if it's fact, or if something that's old and that's been reposted? So we set about going to work on this video, and the only thing we have to go was the username on the YouTube account. There was only one video posted to that account, and the username was Rita Creole, and we didn't know if Rita existed or if it was a fake name. But we started looking, and we used free internet tool to do so. The first one was called Spokio, which allowed us to look for Rita Creole. So we look all over the US. We find them in New York. We find them in Pennsylvania, Nevada, and Florida. So we went and we looked for a second free internet to call Warframe Alpha, and we checked the weather report for the day in which this video had been uploaded. And when we went through all these various cities, we find that in Florida there was southern storm and rain on the day. So we went to the white pages, and we looked through the Rita Creole in the phone book, and we looked through a couple of different addresses, and it led to us to Google Maps, where we find a house, and and we find a house with a swimming pool that looks remarkably like Rita's. So we went back to the video, and we have to look for clues that we could cross-reference. So if you look in the video, there's the big umbrella, there's a white lilo in the pool. There are some unusually rounded edge in the swimming pool, and there's a tree in the background. And we went back to the Google Maps, and we looked a little bit closer, and sure enough, there's a white lilo. There are 2 trees. There are the umbrella, and it's actually folded in the photo, little bit of trickery. And there are the rounding edge on the swimming pool, so we were able to call Rita, clear the video, make sure that it had been shot. And then our clients were delighted because they are able to run it without being worried. Sometimes the research for truth, so it's a little bit less flippant, and it has consequences. Syria has been really interesting for us because obviously a lot of time we are trying to debunk stuff that can be potentially war crime evidence. So this is where YouTube actually becomes the most important repository of information about what's going on in the world. So this video, I'm not going to show you the whole thing because it's quite gruesome, but you will hear some of the sounds. This is from Markham. Video shocking, and what this video shows when you watch the whole thing through. It's Brody's body being taken out of a pickup truck and thrown off a bridge. The allegations were that these guys were Muslim Brotherhood, and they are throwing serious army office bodies off the bridge, and they were cruising and using a blasphemous language. And there were lots of counterclaims about who they are, and whether or not they were what the video said it was. So we talked to some resorts in Markham who have been back and forth with Twitter, and we asked them about this, and the bridge was interesting to us because it was something we can identify. 3 different sources said 3 different things about the bridge. They say, 1, the bridge doesn't exist. Another one said the bridge does exist, but it's not in Markham. It's somewhere else. And the third one said, I think the bridge does exist, but then after of the bridge was closed. So the river should actually dry. So this doesn't make sense. So that was the only one that gave us a clue. We looked through the video for other clues. We saw the distinctive railing, which we can see. We looked at the curb. The curb was throwing sandal sounds, so we can tell the bridge was running as west across the river. It has a black and white curb. As we look at the river itself, you can see there's a concrete stone on west side. There's a cloud of birds. There's a bird in the river, so the river is flowing south to north. There's white left-tailed mist, and also as you look away from the bridge, there's a divide on the left-hand side of the bank, and the river narrows. So onto Google Maps we go, and we start looking through literally every single bridge. We go to the dam that we talked about. We start just literally going through every time that road across the river. Crossing of the bridge that doesn't match. We are looking for one that crosses as west, and we get to Markham. We get all the way from the dam to Markham, and there's no bridge. So we go a bit farther. We switch to the satellite view, and we find another bridge, and everything starts to light up. The bridge looks like it's crossing the river as too wet. So this could be our bridge, and the zoom right in. We start to see less got a median, so it's a two-lane bridge, and it's got the black and white curve that we saw in the video. And as we click through it, you can see someone uploaded photo to go with a map, which is very handy. So we click into the photos, and the photos start showing us more detail, and we can cross-reference with the video. The first thing that we see black and white curving, which is handy because we have seen that before. We see the distinctive railing that we saw the guards throwing the body over, and we keep going through it until we're certain that this is our bridge. So what does that tell me? I've got to go back how to my three resources to look at what they told me. The one who said the bridge didn't exist, the one who said the bridge wasn't in Markham, and the one guy who said yes, the bridge does exist, but I'm not sure about the water levels. Number 3 is looking like the most truthful all of a sudden, and we have been able to find that out using some free internet tool, sitting in a cubicle in an office in Dublin in the space of 20 minutes. And that's part of the joy of this. Although the web is running like a torrent, there's so much information that's there that's been incredibly hard to share and getting hard every day. If you use them intelligently, you can find out incredible information. Get a couple of clues. I could probably find out a lot of things about most of you in the audience that you might not like me finding out. But what it's telling me is that at a time when there's a greater abundance of information than there ever has been. It's harder to filter. We have great tools, we have free internet tools, and allow us, help us to do this kind of investigation. We have algorithms that are smarter than ever before, and a computer that are quicker than ever before. But here's the thing, algorithms are rules. They are binary. They are yes or no. They are black or white. True is never binary. True is a value. True is emotional. It's fluid. And above all, it's human. No matter how quick we get with computers, no matter how much information we have, you will never be able to remove the human from the true thinking exercise, because in the end, it is a uniquely human trait. Thank you very much. Applause.
No.